Okay, so the market continued to go down and make not technically new lows, but depending on the time frame that you're looking at. But it went low enough that it stopped out my long on the S&P, which was a position from the 100 down to the 75. Stopped me out. Nice and clean. Just all red candles today, pretty much, on the S&Ps. Disgusting. Um, Same on the Dow. I had the backup 675, the backup of the 750, 675 that got popped. Not that I was thinking of doing this, but the 575, if you were to front run a counter trend below these lows and front run the 575, that would have been gotten you in, and you locked in at least a 1-to-1 already from that little bounce here. So just very range bound. If you zoom out a little bit and you look at the 4-hour chart, which is about as big as I'm gonna get in terms of a time frame when I'm day trading like this, especially on the Dow because it moves so much. Just really disgusting. All the tops and bottoms, the highest highs and the lowest lows of this ugly range were based off of some kind of news event. So it's the summary for this year is markets aren't moving unless there's news, and the news is um, what I mean by news is like Fed announcements, Jerome Powell speaking, job numbers coming out, CPI numbers, all these, a lot of it's very fundamentally driven so far this year, and the technical analysis is not holding up quite nearly as well this year. So that's the kind of climate that we're in at the moment. Um, the quarters stuff is still holding up as long as you're. I'm strict about my rules. Keep my losses to a minimum by not getting in too too prematurely. And so I didn't want anything to do with the. Let me zoom in a little bit here. I didn't want anything to do with the 750 because I wanted to see something happen. And I didn't see anything happen. I didn't see any kind of candle formation. Like I said, in the previous stream, the previous vlog, there wasn't any kind of candle formation. There wasn't any kind of divergence that made me want to go long. I had the set because I was playing this little area right here, and it didn't work. It just sliced right through. So I mean that I'm okay with that. The reason that I put it there, there was an objective reason that a limit order was set there, and it sucks that it didn't work, but that's okay. It's part of the game. Right now, what I'm looking for is maybe I'll take a shot at the 500 because I do recall there was one, tiny little wick that here that I remember this was a couple of weeks ago where I was like, man, I was thinking about it, and it was the only touch since. Well, this wasn't that long ago. It was January 31st, so it's about 2 weeks ago. It hasn't touched it since, but It's touched a lot of the other quarters. The front running the 575, the front band would have worked twice so far, and wonder if this one is going to work. So I just have the 500 and the 425 as shots. There's no real reason for it other than the quarter at this moment for now, because what I'm looking for is for the range to hold up. I don't believe that we are going to be moving out of this range until something significant happens fundamentally, and that might be some kind of rate announcement or whatever. So I'm gonna play like, okay, you stopped me out for this. You made a slightly new lower low, but it's not really a low because this is still to me range bound between this low down here and this high, because you have on the 4 hour anyway, you have the higher high and then lower low, but then higher high, higher low, and then from that point on, you're not able to make a higher high. It's like higher high, lower high, higher high, lower high, and then higher low, lower low, higher low, lower low. Like it's all over the place. So it can't seem to establish a pattern. So I mean, you can make the argument the range is starting from all the way down here to all the way up here, but that's too big of a range in my opinion. I'm looking, and this is where it gets a little bit subjective. Where the range seems to be tight is off the 500 and to the, I guess, the 250 or the 325. Okay, 33 500, 34 325. Okay, so not quite 1,000 point range. So that's why I'm playing this, and then a backup order just in case my stop was too small. Although my guess is that if you're gonna break through the 500, you're probably gonna break through this one as well. But it's just there, just because that's standard operating procedure for the way that I execute the strategy. I lay 2 traps. So, not the greatest, not the best day. I'm still a little salty about missing this 34,000 sell, which I got alerted to, and I wanted, and I was like, oh, I gotta go take it. But I was in the middle of a work task. That's what happens when you do this part time. I was in the middle of a work task meeting kind of thing that I was like, oh, I gotta sell the 34,000 later. And by the time I saw it, it was this candle was already forming, and I was like, God damn it, it's already moved down past this one, and it probably, I'm like, okay, if you're gonna move down past that, there's very little chance of you actually pulling back. But just in case you do, I'll put a limit there, but it never hit. So I'll still take it because it made a new low, and I'm gonna take the 4,000 and the 4,075. These two, just they've worked before back here. So, and oh no, right here it worked before. Right here, got me down to no. I'm not far enough. Right here is where it worked. On last Friday it worked. Remember that ended the week on a win, and then it worked again here the other day when there was a Fed announcement. That worked, and I'm looking for it to work again. If it climbs back up on the 30-minute, this is a pretty decent zone right here. So that's right on the 4,000, right? That's right, in terms of formation, this is right when I wanted it. Not that I knew the zone was forming or anything like that. This is right when I wanted it, but now that it's formed, this is a pretty nice looking zone. Drop, base drop. That made a new low. It's pretty strong. So I want that. And then this zone is okay. It's pretty strong, but a lot of basing behind it. And it's just, again, standard operating procedure to have a backup order there. That's all. So, kind of a boring day. Couple of losses, both on the S&P and the Dow. What am I doing on the S&P? The thing that probably makes sense to do on the S&P is to now short the 4,100. I didn't think about it, but it did make a new low. It would encompass this old support turning into new resistance, and this old support turning into new resistance. So I'm just gonna put it in an order there. I don't look at this as much. I'm still getting used to staying on top of this. Now, what is my take profit going to be? I'll just put this in for now. My take profit, can I squeeze out a all the way down to the 4,000, I would have to break through this to get there. So I'm gonna, it's either like, I'm gonna run into traffic at 2 to 1, right around the 50. But if I can break past the 50 in this low, I'll probably take the 4 to 1. So I'll take the 4 to 1, and that is 4,000. And that's it. I'll manage the trade. You know, if I get picked up and it starts moving down, I'll manage the trade accordingly. Once it hits the 50, I'll probably move the stop to break even, the way that I should have done with this one, but I forgot. Still getting used to managing the S&P in addition to the Dow, but that's just that's execution error that I forgot to move to break even. I could have saved myself one loss. I turned it into a break even instead. So lesson learned there. We'll see what happens.